So my presentation here, 3 words up there: challenge to change. And a lot of times in life, these words are inverted. A change comes along that causes challenge. Well, I'm here to put out the proposition we need to invert those and challenge ourselves to change. I'm gonna tell you a story, my story, that taught me this important concept. I'm 14 years old. I'm in a dark room with my mom sitting next to me. And there's an eye doctor sitting across about 5 feet away from me, and I can't see him because it's so dark, but I could hear him. And he's flipping through papers, just reviewing a chart for like what seems like the longest time. And then all of a sudden, the papers stop flipping. And then he looks at me and tells me 4 words that would change my life forever. And he tells me, "Jason, you're going blind." He told me I had this rare degenerative eye disease. It's called retinitis pigmentosa. And he told me I would go blind. On the right-hand side is how it would happen. There would be blind spots on the outside periphery. It would slowly close into a tunnel. This is how I see right now. And eventually that tunnel would close down into straws, and then pinholes, and then nothing. And that eye doctor looked up at me and he said, "Jason, what do you want to do with your life?" And I said, "I'm going to be a doctor or a lawyer." And before I could even finish the phrase, he said, "Forget about it. You're going to have no light perception by the time you're 30. Most blind people don't work. Learn to do something with your hands, and I have 5 minutes before my next appointment if you have any questions." Right? In an instant, things can change. For the better, for the worse. And sometimes they are one and the same. In this instant, it was great for me to know that I was different, because I had had struggles all the time growing up. I never knew why I couldn't see certain things or I ran into things. And now I knew, and I was able to start making adaptations to those changes to try to get through school. I had to move from the back of the row to the front of the class. I had to start wearing little reader glasses. Had to have like a lot of extra light, but through all these adaptations, I was able to move forward with my life. I did end up going to college. I did end up going to law school. 10 years from the date that doctor told me to forget about my dream about becoming a lawyer, I passed the bar exam. I became a lawyer. If you want to clap, you can, but it would be clapping for lawyers. Remember, you clap for lawyers there, right? Right? But I did go to AA, Attorneys Anonymous, fully recovered. I'm like my 15 or 16-year chip or whatever. Went on to a business career, worked at General Electric for over a decade, ran GE Capital in the Caribbean, ran global operations for Western Union, CEO of a nonprofit that helps kids with autism. So I ended up having some success, despite this dreary prognosis that this eye doctor told me, right? But one thing that's true about success is you are going to fail many, many more times than you succeed. And the larger your dream, the more success and the more epic your failures are going to be. One of the things I like to impress upon audiences I speak with is failure is not something to be avoided. Failure is not something that we should not talk about and not share with others about. Failure needs to be discussed openly because others can learn from our failures. Failure is a natural part of life. It's nothing to be ashamed of. I was ashamed of this eye disease for so long. Until just 4 years ago, I hid it. I didn't want anybody to know. I was shameful about something that I had. I didn't ask for it. But I was ashamed of it, and I carried that with me, and it was such a burden. Just 4 years ago, I found myself at the lowest point of my life. Bless you. And it looked like this. I had 3 kids. I had gotten divorced. All my grandiose jobs were no longer. I was unemployed. Had to file for Social Security disability income. Got a letter from the federal government telling me I was permanently and totally disabled. I mean, what do you do with that? I stopped driving. My eyesight had gotten to this little tube. And I sunk into a depression. And it wasn't just a day or a week, it was months. And I just didn't know how I could go on not seeing. And I didn't know, frankly, if I wanted to go on. And all I could think of was my 3 kids, because what would happen if a change didn't happen? And that was the point in time that the biggest challenge hit me square in the face. And I call it a calling. But it was something that had to happen so that I could move on and continue on in life. And for me, that challenge to make a change to me ended up looking like this. For me, the challenge was going to be to run across America. Insane. And in my head, my plan was I would go 50 miles a day, 3,000 miles across America. That'd be 60 days. That's the longest I could ever imagine being apart from my kids. Give you an idea of the magnitude of this, over 4,000 times Everest has been summited. Less than 300 times people have crossed America on foot. Only 6 of those had ever crossed at 50 miles a day or more. That was my goal. No blind person had attempted it. I had to prepare. I had to start running, right? At the beginning, I was running 30, 40 miles a day. At the end, it was an 18-month time period for me to prepare. At the end of those 18 months, I would run 300 miles a week. 30, 40 miles a week to 300 miles a week. Ran 6 races of 100 miles or longer. This was taken at the Badwater Ultramarathon. It's a 135-mile race through Death Valley in July. It was 120 degrees when that picture was taken. I had to get the word out. Made a website, but the important part of this website is that there's a button on there that says donate. I wasn't working at the time. I was collecting Social Security disability income, trying to keep a roof over my head and my 3 kids. And I had to resort to begging. And I don't know if anybody here in this audience has ever had to beg. It is dehumanizing. It's humiliating. Totally strips you of all your pride. But if I didn't do this, there was no way for me to accomplish the change that I needed to be able to go on. I had my kids. I had to talk to them and explain to them how we would separate for at least 2 months. And there was one thing I couldn't tell them. And that was that I knew that I might not be coming back. Because people die trying to do this, and I would be doing it with a little tunnel. But I knew I wouldn't be going on if I didn't. I had to figure out the logistics. You guys know about logistics, right? Business people. How do you figure out how to run across America? There's no manual. There's no book. What's the route? Can you run on highways, interstates? What clothes do you take? How much do you eat? Every question that I asked raised 10, 20, 30 more questions. And I began to fail because I was trying to do this all on my own. And one thing that we know about large things in life and tremendous adversities that we will face, we never, ever need to do them alone. People want to help us. Many times it's our own selfish pride and ego that prevents us from asking for help and accepting help. And that's where I was at here. So it's time for me to create a team. And I did. I had to find one crazy person who would follow me across America in a van with my supplies. There's only one person I know. Mom, right? Mama Bear. There were strangers that came out to my rescue who had tremendous complementary talents. There were people I didn't even know who begged to ask. I didn't know what their skills were, but I brought them in, created a job around their skills once we found out what they were. Found an organization to make donations tax deductible. Had to have Wilson, right? Had all my friends and supporters sign Wilson. When I felt totally alone out there, my plan was to carry this crazy ball. Finally, it was time to go after this crazy adventure and do it. March 25th, 2016, this picture was taken, Santa Monica Pier, California. I bent down, And I picked up a seashell that was broken, perfect in its imperfection, just like I was. And when that picture was taken, I was so scared. And I didn't want to go through with it. And I wanted to just run back in the car and ask my mom to drive me back home. But I knew if I didn't, I would not be standing on this stage in front of you right now. So I turned east, and I started running and committed to not stop running until I ran out of land. And I ran out of Los Angeles up into the high desert, the most miserable part of the run outside of Joshua Tree and 29 Palms. There's no internet service. Your children would hate it. No Snapchatting. Kept running into Arizona, more desert, chased by animals, just about hit by my first car there. Then into New Mexico, the land of enchantment, which I call the land of weirdness. Sorry if anybody's from New Mexico, but that place is strange. Area 51, large array of radio telescopes. There was actually one night my mom woke at one of our motels, and she saw this thing floating above her. And she doesn't believe in ghosts, and she doesn't even like me to tell the story. So if you see her, mum's a word. And we kept going east, clipped the cattlelands of Texas and Oklahoma, and then into Kansas, where it was constantly windy, like that song, Against the Wind. That was my life. And then crossed into Missouri. If you're from Missouri, you get it. It rains all the time. Not good for running. And then kept going east into Illinois. Got hit by a truck in Illinois. And then crossed into Indiana, Ohio, Amish country, Pennsylvania. Woo woo! Come on, I know there's people from Pennsylvania here, right? Azione, Richard. Yeah, let's give them a hand. Right? Pennsylvania. Nice folks there. And then kept going east into New Jersey. Woo! Although they do call that the Garden State, but I saw no gardens, said the blind guy. Actually, I went through like Fort Lee, similar to Newark, it felt like, I guess. And then on May 23rd of 2016, I arrived at New York City Hall completing that run. 3,063 miles. Yeah, it was insane. I can't even believe it. But that was the launching point. And I get asked a lot on this journey, how did you not quit? How did you not throw in the towel? And believe me, on this run and in life, there have been many, many times that I have wanted to quit. There's 4 things that I've relied on in my life and that this run brought out to me. And that's what I share with you now. And I ask you to take them back in your lives. The first is hope. And the type of hope that I mean is impenetrable, undying hope. Believing in things that are unseen, for which there's no evidence. When other people tell you it is impossible, when you believe it's impossible, you still put that aside and you believe in that dream. It cannot be shaken. Patience. In this life and in this run, there are storms. Sometimes an hour, 3 hours, a day, 3 days. But what is the truth about storms? They will pass you by. And if you remain patient and calm and let that storm pass by, blue skies will come again. And when those blue skies came again, that was my opportunity to start running and running hard. And I did, once those storms passed by. The third thing I use, consistency. This is my daily mileage chart. There's one dip there where we flatted out outside of Joshua Tree, a 16-mile day. Other than that, it was 50 miles a day or more. If you make consistent forward progress towards your goals on a daily basis, you will achieve consistent results. The inverse is true as well, and there are no excuses for this. The second chart, that's the elevation profile of America. External factors. We're going over mountains, through fields, across rivers, whatever. This last chart, that's the diva meter. That was what was going inside of here. I was all over the place, moment by moment, hour by hour, day by day. regardless what your external environment is, regardless of what your internal environment is, you can still deliver consistent results. The last tenet, forgiveness. And we've heard it a lot. I lived it on this thing. Take your 70-year-old mom, make her homeless, move into a minivan, and live together for 24 hours a day for 2 months. You're going to learn about forgiveness real quick. It's true. But the real truth here was when I was out there running 12, 15 hours every day, I replayed life. And I thought a lot about life. And at first, I thought, oh, this is great. Then that left like after a day. And then about for the next month, I started thinking like negative thoughts like, why does this have to happen? Why do I have to go blind? Why did I have to lose that job? Or why did I not get this promotion? Or why this? Why me? Pity party, right? And then it got real deep. And I had to look within myself. And I had to look at myself for the things that I'd done that I'm not proud of. And the things that I have done that have hurt other people. And I had to take the step to forgive myself. And when I was able to give myself that forgiveness, that's when I was able to start forgiving others. I'm not here to preach to you. I'm just telling you a story. And I think my story is every person's story. Every person in this room is dealing with something. We all do. But if there's one thing that I believe that isn't a truth, it is that we can all make it past whatever adversity we're facing. And when I thought deep about my life in this run and how I would share this with audiences in the world, I came up with a platform. I call this the success cycle. And this is my absolute truth that I ask you to take back. And I believe absolutely everything and anything is possible. This is why. There are adversities in life. We're going to face them. When we face adversity, there's a stop sign that can paralyze us. Pain and fear. Pain you feel in the present, financial, emotional, psychological, or fear of the future, something that could happen. It hasn't even happened yet, but it can paralyze us when we hit that adversity. Those are just feelings. Move past the stop sign. Then we get into adversity or adaptation, the innovation phase, if you will. That's where you start creating solutions, figuring things out ways to overcome that adversity. If it's not that monumental of an adversity, you may achieve success on the first go-around. But if it's a difficult one you've hit for the first time, you don't have as many resources, or you just make a mistake, you may fail. And that's okay. That same stop sign is waiting there, though, pain and fear. Keep moving. Through failure, we become stronger and smarter. And as long as you don't give up, you will eventually achieve success. Those 4 tenets I told you about, hope, patience, consistency, forgiveness, for me, that's what I use to dismantle pain and fear. My thought in getting up here on stages and reopening these wounds that I have and sharing with you at a vulnerable level is very simple. I know that we all have dreams. We have professional aspirations to make money, take care of our families, live a comfortable life. We have personal aspirations to feel loved, to be accepted, to not feel alone, to not feel shame. And we're all going to feel those, and we know we do. We have. But it's to stand up here on a stage in front of you and let you know that regardless of where you may be at in your life, there is an unlimited amount of second chances. You may not think you can go on. You may not want to go on. But you can go on. And change, It doesn't take forever. It doesn't take teams. It doesn't take voting. Change can happen in a moment, in a second. With 4 words, my life changed when eye doctor told me I was going blind. And within 5 seconds, it changed for the better when I accepted the challenge to run across America. What more can you be doing in your life to make sure that you are living your true and authentic life to its fullest? It's the way we're supposed to live. It's the way we're supposed to be. And your dream can be yours. My name is Jason Romero. You guys have been a great audience. Thank you.